don't think anybody from RATP Dev is here.
All right, we are now live.
Oh, Tori's on.
Thomas, you're muted.
Oops, I'm sorry. They're off to a good start. I was just going to read our standard welcome announcement, somewhat modified for these virtual times. Welcome to the City of Asheville Transit Committee meeting. We ordinarily meet on the third Tuesday of the month from 3:30 to 5:30. We're a volunteer citizen board designed to offer input and guidance to the Asheville transit system and City Council. We do not set or change routes, control Asheville's transit budget, or have authority over staff, drivers, or the management company. We are a group of citizens like you who are here to ensure community concerns are taken into consideration when setting public transit policy. We welcome public input. Ordinarily, we have provisions in place to receive comment live. I think that's not really applicable right now, so I can skip over that. But certainly if folks have input and want to follow up with the committee directly, they're welcome to do so. So I will just say thank you for your attendance. Your input is valued. And I think we can begin the meeting from there. Let's see. Our next item on the agenda is to review and approve the August 18, 2020 meeting minutes. Those were attached to the agenda via link. If anyone has any comments or edits that need made, I think this is the time to do so.
I have three corrections.
Go ahead, Jeff.
I think when talking about young transportation, there was a reference to Route SE. I think that probably should have been S6 based on something else that I've read. When it also talked about young transportation, it talked about 18,000 passenger rides. I think that's actually 18,000 miles based on something else that I saw. And when we were talking about a concern that I raised that I had not been called back after voicing some concerns on the voicemail system, I believe that Eunice reported that liquidated damages had been assessed against RATP Dev. I now think Eunice has corrected that, but at least at that meeting, I believe the record should show that I think she was under the impression that liquidated damages had been assessed, and that's what was reported, but it's not in the minutes. Those are the three changes that I need to request.
Did anyone else have any other edits to the August minutes? Well, I would, I guess, move to approve them with Jeff's edits incorporated.
I will second that.
And I think this gets me to, I probably should have done a roll call of who is here, but I think we can maybe just say for the record which transit committees members are present. I'm Thomas Lodwick, I'm the interim chair, and maybe if the other members want to just announce their presence and then we can take a vote.
I'm Harvey, I'm a veteran, I'm here.
Kyle Sherrod, Transit Committee member, I am present.
Tori Greaves, I'm present.
And Jeff Jones, present.
Okay, I think there are no other members present. Is that correct? Are there any other Transit Committee members on the phone or on the video?
Lissa, I'm present.
Melissa, are you a candidate? Is that right?
I'm assuming, yes. So when I just filled out the application and got an invitation to the meeting, nothing was explained to me in detail about how things are supposed to go.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry. Yeah, we tried to invite the folks that have applied, but as far as current members, I think that's it. We will get to your applications in just a few minutes. Staff can maybe remind me, but I think for virtual purposes for votes, it's better if we do a roll call of who's here. So we had a motion and a second to approve the minutes with Jeff's edits. I will vote aye, and then just kind of go around. Tori?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Harvey?
Aye.
And Kyle?
Aye.
All right, so it passes unanimously. Jeff, were you able to get all that down? I think Jeff has heroically offered to take some minutes for us.
Yes, I will elaborate on my edits in the minutes.
Okay. The next thing on our agenda is to review and approve the agenda for this meeting. I had some feedback or suggestions, but if I'm welcome, any other feedback first. I don't know if you want any, if anyone wants any additions or anything like that. No?
Kyle here. Nothing to add on my part.
So maybe I didn't communicate this well. I was hoping we could have somewhere some time to discuss some of the recent COVID-19 related issues, including the expansion of the number of folks allowed on the bus, and also the issue of masks, and like whether we can just talk about, I know that Just Economics and volunteers have been handing out masks to the public. I was hoping to just have a little bit of a discussion about, I think, these sort of COVID-19 operational issues, see if we can see how people feel about those changes or policies, if such as they are, and whether we can come up with any suggestions about improvements. So I don't know, we could add that to new business somewhere if we have time for it.
I would welcome that.
I don't know if Amy or anyone from staff, if y'all have any thoughts about that. Okay, I'm not.
Hey, Thomas, this is Amy.
Hey, Amy.
We can discuss it. I can add it to the agenda if you'd like.
Okay. And I mean, I'm hoping that could just be kind of an open discussion. I know there's no presentation prepared about it, but that was my only suggestion.
Okay.
Can that be moved to put in other business, Thomas?
Sure, I think that's fine. Yeah, so we can get to that last sort of if we can get there.
Can you elaborate just for me? I actually do ride the public transit, so would you mind elaborating for me what you mean by just having a discussion about that surrounding COVID? Like, is anything not working, or have you guys gotten word that something's not working, or what does that look like to you?
Yeah, so I was thinking mostly about two things. Sort of the availability of masks. I know there's been a great effort by Just Economics to pass out masks to members of the public, and there were some questions around whether or to what extent masks can be required. And then also just the maximum number of passengers on the bus. I thought that was a big change that we should at least create space for there to be input about, since we weren't able to have a meeting when that happened.
So may I give my perspective as someone who does ride the bus in times of COVID?
Sure. I mean, we can take it as public comment. I think when we get there, I think we would just have to wait till that agenda item to be a stickler.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other additions or changes to the agenda? No. Well, I would just move to adopt the agenda with that one addition.
I second it.
Okay. I'll do the same roll call. I, Thomas Lovick, vote in favor of adopting it as amended. Tori?
Aye in favor.
Jeff?
Aye.
Harvey?
Aye.
And Kyle?
Aye.
Great.
That unanimous?
So that passes unanimously. Yep. So I think the next substantive item is to review the applications for Transit Committee membership. We have 3, and I think all 3 folks are here. If y'all want to introduce yourselves, I know Alyssa and Rachelle, and is it Brandon? I thought I saw Brandon on here.
I see a
I
tile
thought we
for
only
him,
had
but I
one.
don't see.
Yeah,
Brandon,
I thought
you
we
may
only
be-
had one.
We have 3 on the call.
Brandon, you may be muted. I'm not sure. It looks like it is from my angle, but I can't tell. Well, anyway, I mean, we got the applications. We can consider them, but I thought since y'all are present, if you want to if you feel comfortable just saying a few words about it or about yourselves, I'm certainly open to that. Maybe Alyssa, I know you just spoke if you want to go first.
Not really.
Rachelle?
Sure. Hi, my name is Rachelle Sorenson-Cox, and I am pleased to have been invited to this, and even more excited to be considered as a member of the Transit Committee. I am a necessity bus rider, a longtime resident of Asheville, and again, a necessity bus rider since 2017. So I'm committed to making the buses as user-friendly and as used as possible. And I appreciate your consideration. I'm not sure what else you want to know about me. I most frequently use the W1, W2, and W6 lines. I live in walkable West Asheville and have mainly used the buses to get to work. And I can kind of walk to other things that I need, like grocery and pharmacy and things like that. But definitely the bus is necessary for me to get to work. So that's my biggest concern, is just making it reliable and as user-friendly as possible. So again, I appreciate the time and I appreciate the invite. Thank you.
And then Brandon, if you're there and want to say anything. Okay, well, I'm not hearing anything. Do other committee members, do y'all have any questions for any of the candidates? Sometimes we do that. Jeff, I see your hand up.
So I just want to say she didn't want to speak first, but maybe she does want to speak. I would invite her to just share a little something and welcome.
Sure. Excuse me for not knowing how things work. Also, I just moved here from New Orleans about 3 months ago. So the Asheville transit system is how I get around. I do live in West Asheville, but I take the W2, the S6, the S5. I've taken the WE1 to get to and from school and work. And I've also just sort of rode the buses around town to see how everything works. So I was able to go to the Asheville Outlet Mall for the first time. I've ridden the 170 just to sort of see the layout of the city, which is why I applied for the transit committee, because there are some things that I have noticed. And I'm hoping that if I am selected, that my input will be very valuable in helping to improve the transit system for current riders and riders of the future generation.
Great. Thank you for sharing that, Alyssa. Welcome to Asheville.
Yes.
I'm so glad someone getting involved so quickly. That's awesome.
Yeah, Alyssa, welcome in. If I may, I would like to connect with you outside of this. If you're excited, if you're down for that.
Can I ask Alyssa a question, please? This is Harvey.
Go ahead, Harvey.
Alyssa, I was going to ask you a question about the transit system in New Orleans. How is it? Or did you use it?
I did use it every day. As a matter of fact, I like taking the bus. So the transit system in New Orleans, when I left, it was sort of transitioning into accommodating for COVID times. But the normal operation of the transit system is that depending on what line you're taking, the main lines, which are the lines that all connect to the downtown New Orleans area, run every about 15 minutes. Particularly, so for instance, the magazine bus line, there were about 4 or 5 buses on the line during the weekdays, 3 on the weekends. They ran every 15 minutes on the weekdays. They ran every 30 minutes on Saturdays, and they ran about every 45 minutes to an hour on Sundays. The other buses that were outside of the city limits, but were still connected to downtown in some way, ran about every 30 minutes. Our broad bus line, there were multiple buses on the line. I would say more than 20 at a time, and they ran every 10 minutes just because there were a lot of people who took that bus line. So the bus system in New Orleans is very, very efficient and very effective. Even when it had to slow down because of COVID, they still made sure that the passengers got what we needed, because there were multiple people who ride the bus. It didn't matter whether you were a lawyer, a school teacher, a student, working at a grocery store. We all sort of relied on the transit system there. So the RTA did everything that they could to make our transit system very effective and reliable.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. How long have you been in Asheville?
It will be it's been about 4 months. On the 6th, it was 4 months.
Okay.
Harvey, if I may just tag on to that. So I'm currently in Little Rock, here studying and just kind of trying to figure out what to do next, just for a short time. But the Little Rock system, it's called Metro, Rock Region Metro, and it's amazing. And they have minivans that sort of as an on-call system, where you can request a ride similar to Uber, but it's part of the transit system that will get you from places that the bigger buses don't travel. So I'm finding the negotiation of the Little Rock system so user-friendly and so amazing. There are voice prompts. There are ways with their app to tell how many riders are on the bus. They don't have any rider restrictions. Right. There were a few routes that were controlled for a while, but those seem to be up and running, and the system is easily negotiable. In addition, they have day passes, which I found very helpful. $3.65. I was able to buy a pass that would get me everywhere I needed to go in a day. So that was kind of exciting. So, yeah. Systems in other places, it's nice to see how they go. I learned to be a bus rider in Asheville. And so this is really my only other experience with another system, but so far so good.
Thank you. Thank you for your input.
I see Brandon now. Brandon, did you want to say anything?
Hello, I'm just happy to be here. I'm taking all of this in. I'm trying to take the route of being more involved in the community. I have been a transit rider before, and I know that some communities are not fully represented in every route or decisions that are made with it. And at this time of our lives as a country, like I'm really trying to step in there and be a bridge, communicator, network. So I'm looking to be a part. And today I was just sitting in. I'm sorry I have a 16-month-old running around. That's why my screen is off. But like I said, I'm just happy to be here. Thank you for the invitation. And I'm trying to learn as much as I can from you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
And welcome.
And I forgot to mention, so right now we have 8 members and we can have up to 11. So we do have 3 openings just for everyone to consider. Kyle, it looked like maybe you had something to say, but maybe I thought your hand was up.
It was. I lost what I was going to say though, so just ignore me.
Okay.
It's okay.
Well, if there are no other questions, I'd be happy. I mean, we can entertain motions if anyone wants to make a motion. Jeff, I see your hand up.
Just for expediency, I have read all 3 applications. I've just really appreciated what each person has shared. I don't feel a need to break them apart, but if someone wants to vote individually, I would honor that. But the motion that I would make is to simply, I nominate all 3. I'm really quite taken. I want you all to know that. I appreciate what each of you can bring. I appreciate your being here. So yeah, I'm just grateful. And so I'm going to move that Rachelle and Brandon and Alyssa, be nominated. That the transit committee recommend them. And this is Alyssa. This is like everything we have to learn. We have to make a recommendation to the multimodal. I'm interrupting myself in this motion, but I get to write the minutes, so it doesn't matter. We have to make a recommendation to the multimodal commission, who will then make the appointment. So my motion is that Rachelle and Brandon and Alyssa, that we recommend that the multimodal commission appoint them to the transit committee.
I would second that.
Well, I'll say aye.
Yeah. I also support that. I think all 3 are great candidates and could bring a lot. So I as well.
Any other discussion before we vote? Okay. Well, I'll do the roll call again. I vote aye. Tori?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Harvey?
Aye.
And Kyle?
Aye.
All right. Well, that's great. Thank you all so much for your interest. It's coming at a really critical time for our transit system. So as Jeff explained, what we do is we basically recommend that multimodal appoint you to the committee. It's not technically up to us, but I'm not aware of it ever being rejected. So I feel hopeful, but the only trick is that multimodal would have to do it at a meeting where they can vote on things. So similar to like, we're only able to really take action during these meetings. That's why I was talking about a quorum in the beginning. So the recommendations will go to multimodal, and then as soon as they're allowed to meet, I would hope they would take up your applications.
See, I thought it was up to you guys. I thought you guys were the head honchos. So I got excited about being invited to the meeting.
It's like a layer cake. So you're just, but
we would.
Jeff's hand is up.
Yeah, I'm realizing how new you may be to the way things work. And so since there may be no other point in the agenda, I would almost like to entertain what questions do you have for us? I promise you, there is a lot you don't know. I'm going to ask for a definition of terms when we get to a report later in the meeting, because I can never remember what 5307 and JARC funds are. So, but what questions do the three of you have for us? Like, for instance, we can't even meet every month right now. We can only, in theory, we're going to meet every other month, but then that got canceled. And so it was a 3 month. So I encourage you to be flexible, but tell us what questions you have now. What's really bugging you that you'd like to know, since you've heard us already vote?
I think we can do that for a few minutes, but I just want to keep in mind that we have limited time here. So if y'all have any burning questions, also you can reach out to me or any of us after the meeting as well. This is not your only chance. So
I guess just when is the multimodal transportation committee meeting? Like, what should we, so that we can just schedule to attend that as a guest, like in the same way that we did this? I don't know.
I would defer to staff on that.
What's our next step?
I don't know if staff can answer that question.
Or do we just wait to be invited since the motion is there?
Can anyone from the city staff speak to when multimodal is allowed to meet next?
Multimodal meets December 10th, but yes, we'll follow up with further instructions on what that'll look like.
Thank you. Go ahead, Jeff.
So at a minimum, I would, because it took me a few meetings to figure this out, I would like for our new people who are being recommended to know who else is on this call and what role they play. It took me a couple of meetings to figure out the difference between transit staff who work for the city and RATP Dev who is the contractor. And I won't go into all the dynamics, but at least to put a name and maybe even a face with some of these people that we work with and who are on our call today. I'd like to offer that.
Sure, yeah, we probably should have done that in the beginning. I'm sorry, y'all. But yeah, if staff and if anyone from the management company is on, if y'all want to introduce yourselves, that would be helpful.
And the role that you play.
I could toss
We're talking about it.
My name is Barry Riling. And yeah, it sounds like all three of you have passion for what we're doing here in the city. I am the general manager for RATP Dev, who is the contractor that runs the contract for the city. So we, in essence, work with the city to run the service and report the issues that we're having on the system, respond to complaints, maintain the vehicles, hire the drivers, hire the supervisors, hire the dispatchers. And like I said, we work closely with the city staff to maintain the service. My name again is Barry Riling. LaShawn Abraham is our operations manager. She actually took a vacation. I can't believe that. She's on vacation this week, so she's not on the call today, or she normally would be. But welcome. I have confidence you all make it through the multimodal selection process, and we look forward to working with you in the future.
Can we see your face, Barry?
No.
Okay.
It breaks the camera every time, Jeff.
I don't believe that.
My camera does not work on my tablet. I apologize.
No problem. No problem.
Oh, Lord.
Anyone from the city?
Hi.
Oh, Hi, I'm Jessica Morris. I'm the Assistant Director of Transportation, and I'm in charge of transit and transportation planning and parking and traffic engineering and all those great things. Got a wonderful staff that works on transit planning and executing the transit master plan and new service improvements. And we work very closely with our contractor, RATP Deb and Barry and LaShawn. And I'll shut up now and turn it over to Eunice, who is our transit planning manager.
Thanks, Jessica. Hi, my name is Eunice Lovey, and I'm the transit planning manager. I have 3 staff working in the division. Marcella, who is the transit project coordinator, she works on all the transit planning, service planning, implementation, bus stop planning, and a whole host of activities related to transit planning. I also have Roxy White, who is not here, but she is responsible for grants. She's a grants coordinator in the division. So anything that has to do with all the federal, state grants that we use for transit operations, transit services, and everything else, she is responsible for that and works with FTA, Federal Transit Administration, as well as NCDOT, State of North Carolina Department of Transportation, in coordinating all that grants, including submitting reports and everything. And I'm sure most of you have met Amy Tesner. She's the admin assistant in the division, and she communicates with all of you, assist with all the different activities that we also undertake in the division. And I'm also responsible for managing the transit operations contract, making sure that everything we do in the division is done according to city, state, and federal regulations. That's in a nutshell what I can provide in terms of what we do in the division. Thank you.
Go ahead, Jeff.
And I want to recommend that the new appointees, believing it's going to happen, familiarize themselves with 2 documents. The Transit Master Plan. It's on the city website. It'll take it. Yeah, just do that. And the second, if you can wade through the city budget document and find the parts that apply to transportation, I think it will help inform you with some of the discussions that we may have here, some of the presentations that will be given to us.
Jeff, I wanted to follow up and let the group know that as part of orientation for the new members, we will schedule meetings with them and provide an overview of all the transit-related stuff, what their responsibilities are, and also provide copies of all the documents that you mentioned.
Awesome.
Okay.
All right, well, I think we can probably keep it moving unless there was anything else. No? Okay. So the next item on our agenda is voting on a new chair and vice chair for the transit committee. I was the former vice chair, and then our chair left, so I sort of became interim chair. We don't have anyone who's stepped up, but if anyone is interested in serving as chair or vice chair, I'm certainly happy to hear from folks, and we could vote on that now. I'll just leave that open.
Not to be like that new girl, but you wait until because, I mean, hand up, but I'm not official. So I'd be happy to serve. But that's a little premature. So is there?
Yeah, we can certainly wait. I think that's a valid point. And just wanted to make space for the current members if anyone had interest.
Of course, and I'm not trying to push anyone out. I'm just saying that I'm interested if you are willing to put a pin in it.
Sounds good.
Thomas, are you willing to be interim chair for a while longer? Are you able to do that?
I mean, yeah, for a little bit longer. So, I mean, maybe when we get the new folks on board, maybe we'll have a bigger crew and we can fill out the leadership roles. Cause I think we don't even really have a secretary right now either. So, probably some tightening up to do. If folks are interested in stepping up, that would be great. So we can table that for now unless anyone else has interest or thoughts.
Don't be shy.
Okay, well, that went like it did last time. So, so I think next we'll get supposed to get an update on the Young Transportation contract from the staff. I think maybe riders have, if y'all are new, I mean, we have RATP Dev, but then we've contracted with Young Transportation to help with some of the capacity issues and COVID issues. So maybe I think we're just supposed to get an update on that.
You want to bring up the agenda? I'll forward it to you.
Give us just one moment. We weren't quite set up for that.
And I actually have a question about why the Young buses operate the way they operate. So whenever you guys are ready, like why it's set up the way it's set up, I can explain it more in detail whenever you guys get ready.
Alyssa, I am guessing that you haven't seen any of the documents that were sent out prior to this meeting. Is that correct?
Yeah, all I got was an invitation. I didn't get any documentation. I didn't get any word about what the process entails. I just filled out the application, was told that you guys were going to meet in October, which is when I did the application. And then I got an invite to this meeting.
Thomas, can we talk to that briefly while they're working behind the scenes? It's frozen on my screen. Other people, he has left the meeting. Okay. I'm gonna give you a brief introduction until Beth tells me that we're ready for the presentation. So you may know that that with COVID, buses passenger load went down to 9 on each of our buses. And as a result of that, certain routes were canceled. And in order to use those buses to help with the passenger load on the routes that had a lot more passengers. So the routes with low passenger count got canceled in order to serve the heavier routes. It was a little while longer, particularly with the CARES funding that came in. CARES funding is the federal CARES Act funding. It's the federal money. We were able to have a contract with Young's Transportation to, number one, restore the routes that had been canceled, but also then to follow the routes that had, presentation is about to start. But to follow the routes that needed additional backup. So that's how the Young's contract came into being. It's 4 buses and drivers that are provided. The original contract went through December. It's now been extended through April. I think that's the presentation we're about to get. And those buses do follow-up work. And I'm probably actually the least qualified person to give you this introduction, but I was willing. So is Thomas back?
I guess my question really was like, why do some bus routes have a young bus that follow them, but not everyone does, even though it says on the website that all the buses are going to have a young bus, and the bus drivers are supposed to communicate that there will be a young bus behind them. That hasn't, from what I've seen in my experience, that hasn't always been the case. So that was my question.
Okay. I think that would be a great contract, a great question for the presentation that is about to be made. Thomas is back. I'm gonna be quiet again.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, y'all, my internet cut out. So if that happens again, I've got it on the phone. But if someone could take over on moving through the agenda, if that happens, I would appreciate that.
Okay. Jeff, thank you for the introduction and what the CARES Act is supposed to do. So basically,
I need to mute myself.
okay. So basically what happened was, as a result of COVID-19, I think that is one of my slides is missing. Okay. What am I doing wrong? Okay, right there. Thank you. CARES Act. Oops. For some reason. Okay.
Yeah, this is just a few minutes behind you.
Okay.
So just watch on your screen.
Okay, great. The funding became available and was appropriated to the Asheville region as a result of funding that was appropriated for CARES Act. And it also provided us the opportunity to offer additional transit service due to the need to also reduce service. So the city of Asheville was allocated approximately $3.68 million out of the CARES Act that was appropriated to this region. Overall, this region was appropriated about a little over $8 million, and our share, the city's share of that, was $3.68 million. As a result of that and the need for us to provide supplementary service, the city released an RFP on May 13th to request proposals from vendors to provide the additional service needed. The need was to request provision of drivers and large buses, also to provide 12 hours per day in order to cover service on the 3 routes on which service was cut. And it also meant that there was a need to reduce service or the number of passengers on the buses as a result of social distancing strategy that we put in place. We initially put in place a 10 per passenger on the buses limit. However, we recently increased that due to seating capacity. Initially, it was 9 plus the driver. And so this presentation was modified to include recent changes that we made. The initial estimated cost of the contract was $962,000, which was authorized by the City Council for 4 buses for 12 hours per day. Estimated time was from June of 2020 to December of 2020. The contract in place had no impact to our current contractor, RATP Dev, with the city. And the contract was approved at the City Council meeting on May 26, 2020. Young Transportation was the only provider to submit a proposal. As such, the contract was awarded to them to begin providing the service on June 1, 2020. As a result of the changes and also the need to reduce service, we initially cut service on the 170 S6 and also the WE1. And basically what we did with WE1 was to reduce some of the trips on that specific route. As demand increased, we also added additional routes. To date, Young Transportation has provided more than 18,000 passenger miles, and also have served more than 3,000 passengers. Operations are coordinated with our contractor, RATP Dev, and they oversee schedule that is operated. We also staff, meaning the city staff, continues to monitor and track Young Transportation service provided throughout the community. As a result of the need to continue providing service and also to answer the question that was posed, there was a number of issues that we needed to address. One of them was as a result of the social distancing policy put in place, there were a number of passengers being passed up at bus stops. And so what we needed to do, and also from based on input from the community, staff went to the city council to request approval to amend the contract terms at the November 10 meeting, and this was approved. So the initial contract from June 1st to December 2020 has been extended to April 30th, 2021. This ensures that we continue to assist with passengers being passed up at bus stops due to social distancing policy. It also assures that the city continue to provide additional service to address some of the public transportation issues. In addition to extending the contract terms, we also requested additional funding to be added to the contract to increase the original amount. And so instead of $962,000, additional $560,000 have been added to the contract. And that actually increased the contract amount to $1.5 million. This is also this is to ensure that funding is available to pay for services that are rendered. And so basically that's a summary of the Young's contract, transportation contract, and also in terms of recent changes that have been made to the contract. Are there any questions?
No, thank you, Eunice.
This is Barry. Alyssa, did that answer your question? The reason that those overload buses are following the F3, the WE1, the F5, and the WE2 is because those four routes are isolated as our heaviest ridership routes, where we were passing up the most people. We didn't have the funding to put a bus on every bus. And I guess I'd be curious if maybe, Eunice, can you check the website about this issue of saying that there's a bus following every bus? That has never been the case and is not the case. That needs to get corrected if that is the case.
Is that okay? I don't think we have that on our website, do we?
I don't think so. If we do, it would be, I don't think it's on the website, but if it is, then it might just be a misstatement, and it would be helpful if that could get pointed out so we can correct it.
Okay. We're going to double check that, and that might be an incorrect information, and revise that.
If I may, I think that the rumor among ridership is that, and the information that is out there, whether intended or just implied, is that when there is a route that is experiencing a high rider volume and many of us are being left behind, that there will be a Young bus attached to that will pick up the overflow. So it seems and it sounds and it gives the impression that if you are passed up, there is a good chance that a young bus could come and pick up the overflow. And it's not clear that that is, as a rider, that that is only for certain routes.
So I guess I would say that if I remember correctly, there was a thought process way early on in this reduction in service, reduction of passenger loads, that we might be able to accommodate the service that way. But as time went along, reality of the overloads on these 4 specific routes ate up the availability of the extra buses. And they've been put on those routes to accommodate the most passengers that we can possibly accommodate. There's just no other service available to do other routes and do a pickup otherwise. So they are dedicated to the S3, the W1, the S5, and the W2.
Does that answer your question?
I mean, yes, I know that to be true because I was able to ask to, to negotiate. But I think it's not clear on the website or in the ridership. It's ambiguous still.
Okay.
So this is Jeff speaking.
Yeah.
What I would like to request, I don't think a vote is needed here. I think I had some of the same impressions at some point in time. So my request of transit staff is that we review all of the information that's put out there about the Young's buses and make sure that it is correct and non-ambiguous.
Jeff?
And I think that's what you were planning on doing, so thank you.
Jeff, could you name some of the documents that you're referencing?
I haven't, this is, I'm not remembering, Eunice.
Well,
I'm not remembering, so.
If I may, the website and even the WLOS and the printed materials, everything that the information that came from transit, it gave the impression that these buses would jump in where needed. And we understand that, I understand now that you can't just dispatch a bus to a location, and by the time the bus even got there, that ridership, that influx in riders may be even gone. So you can't play catch up like that. I understand that, but the press release about, or I'm maybe mistaken, but the information that was put out about the Young buses was that they would handle overflow kind of as needed, and it wasn't specified that they would only be operating on specific routes. But I think it's a simple fix. And now I think many of the riders know, but at first it was sort of presented as this will be an option for any time there is an influx in ridership, instead of it will be available for an influx in ridership on routes A, B, and C. Yeah, simple fix.
And again, I have a similar recollection, and I'm sorry I can't point you to the document, but again, it's very clear in my mind, which is a scary thing, is something said that, if there is a passenger can't be picked up, another bus will be dispatched. It's almost language to that effect. And this information is very old, but it sounds like Alyssa is new to the city and is still was under that impression, or Rachelle has some experience. I just think it's worthy revisiting our major documents to make sure that they're accurate.
For me, it was on the website. So in the process of moving here, the public transit is definitely one of the things that I looked into, and it was I did move right in the middle of COVID. So when it's the Asheville NC.gov website, and it's the transit part of the website, when it explained how the transit system would operate in times of COVID, it did give the impression that there was going to be a bus following every route that was unable to accommodate passengers, and that the bus driver would stop and
let you know
that there was a bus that was going to be following. And then once I got here and started experiencing it for myself, I realized that wasn't the case. I figured that it was something to do with the funding and not being able to pick up or, accommodate every route. But I didn't know for sure being new here. So yeah, my question was answered, but it definitely does need to be communicated clearer.
Yeah. And there's also
I'm sorry to interrupt. Kyle noted that he has to jump off in a few minutes, so I just wanted to make space. Kyle, is there anything you wanted us to address or move around before you have to jump off? Or if anyone has any motions they're planning to make, I think technically we can still act even if we lose a quorum during the meeting, but
yeah, I just wanted everybody to know that in case there was something that we wanted to vote on before we leave. I don't necessarily have anything to add to the Young's transportation discussion.
Anything else generally, if you had any, just so you have some time?
I might be able to hop back on close to 5:20 or so towards the end of the meeting to discuss the masks on the bus, if that were to be something we could do.
Okay, just checking.
So I'll just reserve it for that, and I'll try to hop back on later.
All right. Thanks, Kyle. Good luck. I see the next item on the agenda is the Young transportation charges, which I think is just the running balance.
Yes, it is.
But it looks like that doesn't account for this new influx of funding. Is that right?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Well, I thought in something about city council added their approved funding. Did I misunderstand? To extend the contract?
No, this is just a summary of the charges beginning from June of this year through this time in terms of all the weekly invoices received from Young for the services provided. Okay.
Yeah, I guess I was concerned about the balance on contract part is dwindling, but that's what I was trying to clarify, is if that's been replenished or will be replenished.
Yeah, we're going to do that. And that's why we went to City Council to request additional money to add to the contract. And so that chart will be updated so that the next time you see it, it'll include any additional money that has been added to the contract amount.
So the request has been put in, but it hasn't been approved yet?
It's been approved. We just need to do internal, add the money to the contract to increase it from 62K to 1.5 million.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't something folks needed to advocate for. If it's already said and done, that's one thing. But if there's a question about whether it will happen, I think I would want people to know so they have a chance to reach out to their council members about it.
It will happen. It's a matter of just moving the money into that contract.
Okay.
Could I ask a quick clarification question just in light of that Young transportation discussion? I noticed in the complaint log that there was an incident, it looked like it was logged from August 20th, where there was a rider who was waiting at Haywood for multiple hours. And then I guess Supervisor Sheila Holland was able to dispatch a shuttle or rearrange a shuttle to come. And I was a bit confused. Is that a Young bus that was like summoned? And if so, it seems like that is kind of an on-demand solution that was available, at least in August. And might that be available going forward for those kinds of spot situations?
That is actually ART's bus, and we do have the ability, contractor has the ability to send a van to pick up a passenger whenever there are issues or whenever they miss the bus, depending on where they're going. So this was a situation where a van was dispatched to pick up Sheila because of some of the challenges or issues that was happening at that time.
So how are riders supposed to know about this? Because are you talking about Haywood Street or Haywood Road? Tori, was it Haywood Street or Haywood Road? Haywood Road?
Haywood Road in West Asheville. Yeah, it was related to someone waiting at the Ingalls on Haywood Road.
Normally, let me explain what happens here. No, we can't always go after anybody all the time. It's a matter of someone being available. If you can get a supervisor to run out there, if you can get an operator who is ending shift that could go help out, if you can get, a staff person to run out there and pick up that person, whatever the instance was there, we were able to get somebody to get out there and take care of that person. We do not have demand response fixed route here.
Did anyone have any other questions about the transportation charges or the young? Sorry, I just wanted to make sure.
You're right.
It's okay. I don't mean to be rude. We just have a lot to get through that we've only been able to meet. Maybe this is the second time since COVID. I certainly never want to seem like the miser around cutting people off, but I do appreciate we have a lot to get through. And so I'm just trying to move it along if we can. So I just was wondering if anyone had any questions about the charges, Young Transportation Charges document, or the funding of the contract at this point. Are we okay to move on to the ridership and driver status document? And I don't know if staff or Barry has anything to say about that.
I don't. The numbers pretty much speak for themselves. The ridership, had tapered down considerably, has climbed back again, and that's has caused some issues with the overload. The increase to 13 passengers plus driver has relieved a lot of the overload situation, and the documents that we have filled out with Young's ridership, and then there is also a tab there for pass ups. We kind of show the tail of how it's gone up and down, but really, it shows what we've got going on there.
Jeff, it looked like did you have any feedback on that?
No, I was just looking at my numbers. I just noticed that there were 55 passengers were passed up November 1st through 10th. And that's a little bit of a decrease, but I was hoping that it would be a larger decrease. And part of that could be explained by Barry's comment. I didn't actually check ridership numbers. So if ridership is increased, then the decrease in pass ups will not be exactly what I had hoped. So, but yeah, that's all I have to say.
And Barry, staff, any updates on the driver staffing?
We have 57 bid shifts for our drivers. We have 58 drivers. So we're above our number of active, bid shifts, which is a good thing. We still have our hiring bonus in effect. It is extended towards the end of the month. I will probably extend it to the end of December. I am attempting to attract even more drivers. We are currently also driving an overload bus, so there are actually 5 of them out there. and attempting to help out with overloads as well. So as we can add more drivers, it frees us up to put even more overload bus out there. So that's what we're doing. We've been able to get some drivers. We don't have, if I was going to run all of the overloads that Young is running right now, I would need 65 drivers, and I have 58 in order to cover all those hours. Yeah. You guys up for me, Jeff?
Yes. So with that 5th overload bus, what route are you tackling?
We have gone into the other, if I remember correctly, LaShawn's not here. She's the one that has the numbers at the end of at the tip of her tongue. I believe we're doing the We1, We2. Is it not the other? Jeff, I'll have to get back to you on it. I don't have it at the tip of my fingertips.
Okay. I would just, as an advocate of 170, I'd like to advocate for that. It only runs every 2 hours. We're getting some reports of a lot of people left behind. I just asked if you monitor that.
I'm looking at the pass up report right now. And of course, it's only good as the data that's given, but I do not show any pass ups in October at all. I'm sorry, October 6th, we had 2. And October 2nd, we had 3. And since then, I haven't got any others reported.
If you look in the complaint log, you'll see passengers are reporting other things.
Okay. All right.
Who's responsible for recording that data?
The pass ups are recorded by the dispatchers. The drivers report and the dispatch report records.
The 170 data definitely seems hard to believe, just from what we've heard.
And as a rider of the W1, I know that's not true. I have been passed up several times. So W1, W2, W6 since October.
Okay.
So if I could speak one more time, I've reported this before, and if it's just helpful here, when we listen anecdotally to passengers being left behind, and then we compare that with the numbers that are reported in our spreadsheets, we think the numbers reported in our spreadsheets are low. They may be significantly low. And the only secondary comment I would then make is to reinforce the importance of letting drivers know the importance. Because I've seen passengers left behind and it wasn't reported. I've been on buses and I've watched that happen. I've actually stopped riding the bus for a number of reasons, but one of which is that my 170 was reported to being filled at Spruce Hill, and so I walked to WE2. It's a third of a mile. But when we get to the COVID discussion, I'm going to tell you other reasons why I've stopped riding the bus. So I'm looking forward to that discussion. Let me summarize in one sentence, Barry. If we can just reinforce the importance of drivers reporting anytime a passenger is left behind and the number of passengers that are left behind, I think that's critically important.
And we can do that.
Thank you.
So the next item on the agenda, I think, is updates from MMTC and other groups. If anyone has any other outside groups they're involved in related to transit and would like to share updates, I would welcome that. Jeff, I don't know if you have anything from Part C or otherwise.
Yes, I'm just very grateful. I know that the Transit Committee has not been able to meet as frequently as we have liked, and I'm very grateful that Transit staff has been willing to meet monthly with members of Art C. Art C is the Asheville Regional Transportation Coalition. It's a group of nonprofits advocating for transit. And so typically it's been Just Economics. They met for a couple of months, I think, with transit staff. And for the last couple of months, Thomas and I, who are both on ArtC, representing different nonprofits, asked if we could also attend those meetings with ArtC, and staff is now meeting with up to 4 of us. And again, we bring questions, and there's a spreadsheet of questions and answers, and maybe even that spreadsheet should be shared with the transit committee. There's useful, and I didn't even think of that until now, but there's useful information there. Not that you don't have way too much information already, but I just want to say, yeah, ArtC is meeting with transit staff monthly. I'm grateful for that. That's that report.
Jeff, could you just describe, do the topics of those meetings differ a lot from what we discussed?
They can. Sometimes it's a follow-up to things. I've asked a lot of questions about liquidated damages. A personal issue that I've had, and I can't remember if I raised it at the transit committee or not, but I was very interested in whether or not smoking is allowed in bus shelters. In fact, if I can, I'd like to get that question answered today while we have all the people. It's being researched right now. There have been also a lot of questions about the Young's contract and about how payment occurs and what's an appropriate payment to RATP Dev, and maybe sometimes they shouldn't be paying RATP Dev. So just a lot of interesting conversations, a lot of conversation about masks. So this will be really good. I'll have a lot to say once we get to the COVID-19 discussion. Because we've been talking a lot about that.
So Jeff, this is the first I've heard about ArtC, and I don't think too much information is ever enough, especially to those of us who are writing. And I see Alyssa's wheels turning and Brandon's wheels turning. And so if you could share with us that, just an invite to that, I think that is amazing.
I'm not sure what you're asking, Rachelle.
That would be a great resource. Just how to get more information about ArtC, and and how we can be involved, or even just know what you're doing, because that the crossover is obvious. And anyway, we
can follow up about that.
I think the more cooperative, the better.
Okay.
I agree.
Jeff, I
agree. And
hey, Jeff,
please.
may I follow up with Tori and Rochelle's comment? The spreadsheet that we put together for the monthly meeting with you and DBT can definitely be shared with transit committee members. And basically what we have in the spreadsheet has to do with a number of questions, as you indicated, Young contract, the provision of masks and distribution of masks at the transit station, a number of other things that come up. And so I believe we've been meeting for the last 3 or 4 months, and the spreadsheet has a summary of all the issues or questions that come to us during the meeting. And so what we do is we try to respond to the questions, and then also try to submit the spreadsheet to the 4 of you as soon as possible and as early as we can before the next meeting.
So that's great. So what I would like to request, Eunice, would you be willing to share that with the entire transit committee?
Yes, I will.
That's great. That's great. I'm going to say a couple more things just as we're doing other groups. So I am also a member of Better Buses Together. If you don't know, that is a project of Just Economics. And so I'm not as active in that group as I would like to be. I don't I have a conflict with their meetings, but that group continues to meet. They continue to talk about safety at the transit center, and health, and rider surveys and masks, and they're an active group. So let you know that BBT, Better Buses Together, a program of Just Economics, also meets monthly.
Okay, so
Thomas, I had something to say.
Oh, go ahead, Harvey. I'm sorry.
I was just wanting to give an update on the Citizens Advisory Committee. We had a meeting last week, and we're still in the infant stages of it. And since COVID came around, we're kind of slowed down. But anyway, we're still with the Greenway Plan, where the trails and wildlife corridors, and the American Disabilities Act, and we're still with the pedestrian plans. We went over some bunch of charts and graphs and things like that last week, but we're still brainstorming and we're still reaching out for resources. But like I said, the meetings are far in between, but we're still working on the GAP program. And that's our Greenways, and then the American Disabilities Act and the pedestrian plan. We're still working on that. And I just want to let you know we're still working on it.
Jeff, I see your hand up.
With the new members?
Yeah. For the minutes, Harvey, can you tell me what the name of that organization was again?
The Citizens Advisory Committee, the GAP. We're working on, it's called the GAP plan. It's the Citizens Advisory Committee.
Is that related?
GAP plan.
Is that specifically related to transit, or is it bigger than transit?
Sort of in line with, it's like Greenway, the trails and the wildlife, the corridors, making it easier for people to get on the sidewalks, things like that.
Okay.
Make it easy if there are, sidewalks toward things like that. Pedestrian plans, whether it's feasible for putting sidewalks in for pedestrians to go down certain streets, things like that. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Harvey. I think the next agenda item is the staff's monthly transit update memo, which was also linked in the agenda. Staff, I don't know if someone wants to present on that.
Yeah. Sure. Hey, Thomas, do you want me to go through the information in the memo? Because it's update to information that we provide on a monthly basis. So the topics are almost the same in terms of the budget, bus stop improvement, grants, and grants is broken down in terms of the call for projects, application status, and all other, the planning studies that we are currently involved in, and have also provided a quick update as to what is happening with all the different planning studies that we're currently working on. So that's what we try to do on a monthly basis, take a look at the report and provide updates as to what is happening.
Does any members have any questions about the update memo?
I do.
Oh, go ahead, Jeff.
Yes. So I'm just curious, Eunice. I was looking at the transit vehicle procurement status report, and I noticed the Gillig buses are like ready to go, and we're going to be seeing them like any day now. Is that correct? This is 3 new buses?
Yes. We received those 3 buses in late September, and basically we're working on it, making sure there's their license plate in terms of all the different amenities that needs to be installed on the buses. And I believe sometime this month, the buses should be in service. Right, Barry? I think he is muted, but definitely that's the goal, to have them in service by sometime this month.
So follow-up question. I know that we're often limited by drivers. So is the intent is that we will have fewer, that some of the older buses and maintenance problematic buses, will they be taken out of service or used as backups? Is that the plan? Or will we have more buses in following up other buses?
I do apologize. I got muted there and could not find the unmute button.
Okay.
Those Gillig buses are in service.
Okay.
Operating. We have downed all but one of the older Orion buses. And that one bus is still out there on occasion being used. Our ability to run one of the overload buses is the reality that those 3 Gilligs came in. So it freed up a bus, and we've hired enough drivers we can run one 12-hour shift 7 days a week.
Awesome. I have more questions.
Uh-huh.
Are the Gillig buses came in during COVID, but I've noticed the vicinity buses are really delayed substantially. Is Gillig more able to provide the buses we've contracted for than vicinity, and are we concerned about getting those vicinity buses, and should we switch to Gillig?
Actually, Jeff, I just wanted to mention that Gillig was also closed during the height of COVID. And basically, we were supposed to get those buses, I believe, in summer, and we got them early fall. So all the bus manufacturing companies were impacted by COVID. And Gillig is a lot larger than vicinity buses, but basically they're working on it and we should have them in place. And I just also wanted to say that, as noted in the report, we're also ordering 2 additional Gillig buses. They should be here sometime next year.
Awesome. Thomas, I want to defer to you on this, but every month I read about the 5310 funds and the JARC funds, the 5307, and I never can keep those in my mind. And it may not be part of this meeting or something, but I don't know what those funds are.
Just a quick overview, Jeff. The 5307 funds are apportioned to the urbanized areas, and Asheville is an urbanized area. So we get funding that is apportioned 5307, and that's what we use for fixed route service. And what we can do is provide additional information at the next meeting in terms of what the 5307 funds are used for and what it basically is made up of.
So if I interpret that, that means that if I look at the city budget and I look at the income in the transit system, there will be something that comes from the general fund, but then there will be other money that comes from 5307 and other monies that come from 5310, and these are just special federal grants. Is that all they are, federal grants?
Yes, they are. We participate in the 5310 and JARC call of projects. And so we submit applications as well as subrecipients. And so if you do look through the budget, you will see funding that is made up of the 5310, the JARC, as well as 5307. And in addition, there's also funding from the state that basically has been, I want to say, is no longer in play because of the budget issues, but we also do get some funding from the state that make up some of the funding we get for transit operations and capital projects.
Awesome. Thank you. My last question about your report, Eunice, the feasibility study for the new garage facility was once thought it would be finished in October or November. Are we still on track for that, this feasibility study for the garage?
We're still on track for that, and I believe we are going to get a draft report next month in terms of summarizing all the different activities that has taken place, and then a final report, I believe, in January.
Again, for the new people or the old people like me, this is a $50 million need by the city for a new transit facility, not the public one, but the place where the buses are maintained and stored. The facility is, you'll probably get a tour there. It's small, it's out of date. So this is a wonderful need for our transit system, and I just want to track it. Thank you, Eunice.
Would this be an update on the current facility, or the facility would move somewhere else? The new
this would be a new facility, potentially a new facility that we're looking at.
Closer to the transit station?
No, this is the transit garage where buses are parked and also maintained.
Sure, but where would this closer? Okay, so right now it's only a few blocks away. So would the new space, would it be further away from that or closer to town?
We honestly don't know, and that's part of the study. And a site analysis is going to be completed in terms of selecting a location, probably a number of locations, and then we'll determine the best site in terms of what is needed.
But is the current facility part of the consideration, just improving that current space?
It is part of that, and they're also going to look at whether it is cost effective to improve it as part of the study, and also look at new site in terms of cost to improving that site as well.
Are drivers included in this insight? Because of course, if you have to start your job at the garage and then drive into transit like that, and that's the only place where there's a place for them to have a break. And so, like, are drivers being considered and asked questions as part of this feasibility study about where this goes?
I believe Barry, the GM for the contractor, has been talking to the drivers and will be talking to the drivers in terms of location of the site that may be considered as part of the new location for the garage.
Okay, I just want to keep moving. We only have 30 minutes left. So next is operations updates. There's a lot there. There's the on-time performance documents, the update memos in there again, but I don't know if Barry or staff, if y'all have anything to present on these items.
I don't really have anything to present. They're there. Does anybody have any questions? Jeff?
Yeah. So early arrivals decreased. This is really great news. Early departures of buses. The last meeting, 13.4% of the buses were leaving early. And in this most recent report, it's 11.8%. My concern is, do those numbers sound right, Barry?
Yes.
So my concern is that 11.88 is still very high. And I know that there was another factor you mentioned in our last meeting that I think you said you didn't have control over, but is there still room for improvement to get the early departures number even down? I know late buses, are problematic, but buses should never leave early.
No.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jeff. And I think there's always room. I think some of the things that we're working with the city on schedules to adjust a few, since we did the January 5th changes. Obviously, we've made a couple of points difference in on-time performance. Where we were barely able to hit 70% before, we've been able to achieve 72, or in that range now. We're starting to hit that point. And 71 and 72 are the tweaks that we've been able to make within the schedules. Because a lot of this happens, I mean, if you're on an outbound schedule and you can easily drive from point A to point B in 2 minutes, but you have 3 minutes in the schedule, that creates a problem. Because if it's on a 2-lane road, you really don't have a point to lay down, and that becomes a danger zone. So we're working with the city to make some more adjustments, as we did with the January schedule changes, and we think that we'll be able to help this schedule even more to eliminate most all of that. We're also working with the vendor, because there is some concern about where we hit a time point and we actually do lay down. We may arrive early, but did we leave early is really the question. So there's a lot of parts of this that do roll into on-time performance. And we're working with the vendor to tweak any of it, and we're working with the city to adjust schedules to better fit what is really happening with the route.
Yeah, you reminded me that my concern, and this is very helpful, Barry, it's not arriving early. The concern is departing early. And I think you said before you had difficulty making that distinction in some of your software, but it's the departing early that I just want to reiterate to any and every driver that to never leave your where you are even a minute early. For those of us who are running to catch our bus, that's the worst thing in the world, is to find out that the bus left early.
Can't disagree with that, Jeff.
So I have one other question about this, and it's from the complaint report, and I'd like there to be some discussion, time permitting. Thomas will keep us on track. This is complaint number 82 that showed up on November the 10th. There was a passenger who got on a bus, and he looked around and noticed that there were a lot of people not wearing masks. And so he got off the bus and he got on the follow-on bus. Okay. And that was permitted. And then he said it happened again, except that this time the follow-up bus would not stop for him. And as I read LaShawn's response, it's as if, I think the response was, the overflow bus is not provided for passengers for reasons of safety. They are provided for reasons to pick up overflow passengers. And I simply want to make the case as strongly as I can, because I've decided to stop riding the bus because of a lot of mask usage. But if a rider does not want to get on the main bus but can get on the overflow bus because it's empty and it's safer, I think that should be allowed. But I get the impression that RATP Dev is not supporting that. Can you speak to that, Barry?
Well, the lead bus has a maximum passenger load now of 13, and we're going to fill to 13, and then passengers can board the secondary bus, and that's the mode of operation we're under right now.
So it's not permissible for a passenger to look at and see all of those 13 passengers who are seated 3 feet apart, not wearing masks, in an enclosed environment. The passenger can't choose to get on the overflow bus. Is that correct?
At this point, yes, we can have that discussion.
And I'm troubled by that, and I'm going to invite my other transit committee members to chime in, time permitting, as Thomas is watching the clock.
Yeah.
Yes, I would like to say something about that. Barry, we're not requiring passengers to wear a mask.
I think I'll let the city address that for you.
We can encourage passengers to wear masks. We distribute that on the buses. However, because of the governor's executive order issued, was it in April?
I think it's April. It's Executive Order 147.
Yeah, 127. We cannot also tell the passengers to get off the buses.
No, I didn't say get off the buses. I was just referring to the wearing of a mask. I know I can go over here to CVS and they cannot make somebody wear a mask.
It is,
but getting on a city bus, I thought it was somewhat required that you wear the mask.
So I think the status is they can require it, but not deny service.
Yes.
Because of someone refusing to wear it.
I got you.
And I think that's the stalemate. And I'm sorry, Rachelle, I do want to recognize Tori tried to speak before.
Thanks. Yeah, I just I think it's important to consider the decisions that you're forcing people to make with this kind of arrangement of choices, where if you would like to choose the follow-on bus because it seems like a safer option and it's not possible to deny service to people who are not wearing masks, and it's also not possible to enforce mask wearing, it just seems like it would be very logical to allow people to choose the option that they feel is safest. Otherwise, you're essentially mandating that they go with an option that they do not feel is safe. And I don't think that that is right.
One of the options that we have, well, we don't have a quorum right now, but I think the Transit Committee sometimes needs to find its legs, but we can actually take a vote and a recommendation upon an issue like this. We don't set policy. This is maybe for all the new people. We can't set policy, but we are an advisory group. And if we eventually get a quorum and we want to make this advice, and we would hope that the city would take our advice seriously, and our ATP Dev would take our advice seriously, and there may be other factors we're not considering, but I appreciate Tori's comment, and I think supporting the position I'm taking.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Okay.
Jeff,
Are bus drivers being paid hazard pay?
I'll speak to your quorum in a minute.
Yeah. No, they're not.
No.
No.
But yet we're not requiring masks, so that puts them in a position of okay. Is this something that is going to be brought up, or are the bus drivers just okay with it, baby? I'm sorry.
Brandon,
Thomas, do you want to address that, or address that?
we are not requiring, the city is not paying for hazard pay, and this is an issue that has come up before, and I believe
Stop.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, my internet cut out for a second there.
Brandon,
we cannot require masks, and hazard pay has been discussed at length. This is something that we've been discussing, I believe, over the last 2 or 3 months in terms of paying the drivers hazard pay.
Thank you.
Especially given that, I think we should discuss what we can do to make people safer. And I think one option was discussed, which is allow people to choose an option that they think is safer. That seems like pretty logical to me, and like there's no reason to not allow that. Transport for a lot of people is not like it's something they have to do out of necessity. So let people make the choice that they feel is safest.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.
I don't know if there's a motion in here, but I'm willing to make it if there's something we can do.
We have a quorum.
So, I mean, I just looked at the bylaws. I think it's pretty clear that quorum is not destroyed by one member leaving the meeting. So, but that said, we only have 4 people present. So, I mean,
Thomas just timed out.
Vote based on the prior quorum. So we just need a majority of the quorum to act. Sorry, is it still cutting out?
Keep going.
I think you can make motions and we can vote is what I was trying to say.
I hope Tori will make a motion.
I'm not sure what exactly the motion is, but I guess it would be that I would like to make a motion that I guess it would be RATP Dev would allow passengers to choose whether they want to take the bus or the follow-on bus, depending on which option they feel is safer, given that we're in the middle of a global pandemic and many people will not, if others are not wearing masks. I think this is a very logical thing that could help give people a safer option. So I'd like to make that motion.
I would like to second that motion. Harvey is the second.
Yes, I am.
I shortened the motion just because I can't write as fast as you can talk, Tori. If I back what I think the motion is, RATP Dev will allow passengers to decide to take the bus or the follow-on bus.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
The main bus.
The main bus. Yeah, main bus or the follow-on bus.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, can you all hear me now?
Yes.
All right, so we had a motion and a second. Any additional discussion from the members on this? No. Okay.
No.
Well, I'll just do the roll call vote of who's here. I will vote in favor of that motion. Tori?
Aye.
Harvey?
Aye.
And Jeff?
Aye.
Okay, so it passes with 4 of the 5 members who established quorum. So I think it passes with a majority vote.
I don't know if you have time, but is Barry going to object to this?
I think that the city and us, we need to discuss what the consequences can be and what the ramifications are of this. There are other issues to consider. So I think we ought to have that conversation, and then the city can make a decision how they would like it to play. We do what the city wants us to do.
Mm-hmm. It doesn't.
So thank you for that motion and discussion. Did anyone else have any other questions or comments on the monthly update documents? Otherwise, I think we have maybe 18 minutes left and probably a lot to discuss about masks and COVID generally. So I'm happy to move on to that. But if anyone else has questions, we can hold it open for another minute or two.
No.
Okay, well, so I think there were really 2 major changes recently. Well, one is a change which is
Thomas, you cut out again.
the amount of riders allowed on the bus that we were not able to. Can you all hear me now?
Most of the time.
Maybe Jeff, do you want to lead a discussion about it, about masks and maybe about rider capacity? I know you had things to say there.
Right. Yeah. So I'll do them, and I'm going to do passenger limits and then mass distribution. We have 15 minutes, everyone. So what you may or may not know, we knew that the city was considering increasing the limit of the number of passengers that were allowed on a bus. I can't remember exactly why, but I ended up doing a survey spending about 4 hours at the transit center asking people what their interest was. I don't have the numbers in front of me. I wasn't prepared for this, but probably the majority, but less than 50% said increase it to 13. Some people said keep it at 9, and some people said put it at 25. So 13 was in the middle, 9 was lower than 1. Fewer wanted 9 and fewer wanted 25. The city has subsequently made the decision to increase it to 13. And I will also say it was very important to get driver input. And I believe either the city or our RATP Dev made sure that driver input went into their decision. So that's I will report that. I will also tell you that personally, doing this work, I got on the bus and I realized that with a passenger load of 9, that social distancing in the back half of the bus was at 3 feet. Okay, not 6 feet, it was at 3 feet. I also noticed that oftentimes less than half of the people were wearing masks. And I also noticed that I'm in a enclosed space for usually 15 minutes. And at least on one ride, people were coughing. And so I have personally made the decision not to stop riding the bus. But I respect the city's decision to increase the limit to 13. That's what I have to say with regard to passenger limits. Thomas, if you may want to add more, or any other member of the Transit Committee want to add more to what I've said.
I think I just have a question and maybe a concern that with cases kind of skyrocketing as they are currently, if there's sort of a science basis based on number of cases for reducing back down the number of riders just for public health and safety amidst the rise in cases that's occurring right now.
I think that's a great question. Maybe city staff could speak to that. And then Rachelle.
We are definitely going to take a look at that and make a decision, have a conversation with RATP Dev in terms of the decision that was recently made, and see if we can reduce it to 9. But it's an ongoing conversation that we need to have.
Thank you. Rachelle.
Well, I certainly don't want to give the impression that my ride is any more important than any other rider. But I lost my job because of the inability to work on time. I was terminated for excessive absences at a time when it was difficult to catch the bus to get to work. And so I want my rides to be safe. So I appreciate the rider capacity being lowered. I understand the mask issue. I choose to wear a mask, and I also try to have extra masks on me to give to people, but I don't want to be pushy about my choices. I don't want to implore my choices on others. But again, as a person who lost a job because I couldn't get to work, is there a way to, I don't know, like whose ride gets precedent? At one point, I was waiting for a bus and I started crying. I'm like, if I'm late one more time, I'm going to get fired. And a rider who could wait got off the bus and gave me his seat, which was so nice. But it's only because he overheard me and a driver took the time to stop and listen to my plea. So when it's free and anyone can ride the bus, and let's face it, folks who have nowhere to go and all day to get there are on the bus a lot. And then those of us who have something that we need to get to. So how?
So Rachelle.
I guess that's the thing. Yeah.
So yes, I really need to affirm what you're saying, Rachelle, is that there are at least 2 points of view, two issues that are maybe in tension. And one is health and safety, and the other is people getting to their jobs. And I hope and believe that the city is considering both of those. And I'm not weighing in. I don't know anybody who is weighing in on those issues, except that they are both important. They are both important. I do need to address comments that have been made. It started off by saying Better Buses Together recommended moving to 13. That is not correct. We corrected that at the last meeting, which I think was just a few days ago, when it was Eunice and I and Vicki Neath met. Better Buses Together did not make a recommendation to move to 13. So we wanted to be clear about that. And it's actually for the very reasons that Rachelle has just mentioned, is that I think Better Buses Together recognizes that, we have people who are concerned about health. We have people who are concerned about getting to their job. So Better Buses Together did not make that recommendation. Eunice, does that agree with your recollection from our last meeting?
I believe that's what it said, but based on my review of all the documents and conversation we had, part of the recommendation or suggestion was provided to increase the seating capacity to 13. And that is the information I have in the notes. And that's why I believe DBT also conducted a survey at the transit station to get input into that process.
So I do know, Eunice, that your notes said that BBT recommended going to 13. And at our meeting just a few days ago, we corrected that and said that that was incorrect. So I want to go on record that BBT did not recommend going to 13. It was in the minutes and we corrected it.
But Jeff, how can that be incorrect? Because part of the information we received was basically that point in terms of providing input into the process to increase capacity on the buses.
So what we provided was the results of a survey. And I'm going to make up these numbers here, folks, so bear with me. If I interviewed 100 people, okay, should we increase the passengers to leave it at 9, go to 13, or go to 25? The survey results were like 40 people said 45 people said go to 13, 25 people said leave it at 9, 25 people said go to 25. So we reported that the majority of the three options wanted to go to 13. That's the survey result, but that was not the recommendation of BBT. BBT did not weigh in on the issue, but we did report the survey results. So I think we conflated the two issues. In the interest of time, I would like to talk about mass distribution. And again, these are significant conversations that have been happening between, again, the ARTC folks and staff. Let me make a short report here. ARTC and Just Economics specifically began an initiative to hand out masks on the platform. What has been happening, I think, very early on is that a mask would be granted, one mask would be given to a person on request inside transit center's office. But we thought we would try to change the culture. And so we've been handed out, I think, more than 7,000 masks. We're actually on the platform giving people up to 10 masks if they want them. So we're trying to change the culture, getting more people wearing masks. Again, this is an initiative of Just Economics. And this came up at an ARTC meeting, but Just Economics took it and ran with it. The second issue that I really want to point out here, at our last meeting, we're advocating for significant additional signage at the transit center. We think there should be signs on, I'm going to make this up. I'm getting very dramatic here. There should be signs on every post that says, please wear your mask. There should be announcements over the loudspeaker system that says, please wear a mask as you board your bus or while you're riding your bus. There should be announcements on the bus, please wear your mask. We're trying to change the culture. So that's what's been happening with regard to masks. Let me stop talking. Certainly Eunice has been part of the conversations. Invite you to respond. Let Transit Committee, our guests, please respond as well.
I believe part of the discussion, Jeff, was that the city purchased a number of masks, close to 30,000, and started distributing this, working with RATP Dev, our contractor, and started distributing this at the transit station as well as on the buses. I believe today there are about 8,000 remaining out of the 30,000 mask that was purchased for distribution. And as you indicated, part of your initiative or BBT's initiative was to, again, change the culture as well as increase distribution of masks at the transit station. It is my understanding that 30,000 masks was donated to BBT. And from what I understand, to date, about 3,500 or more has been distributed. So we really, at the city, appreciate the opportunity to work with you on this effort. In terms of the comment you made about making an announcement at the transit station on the radio system, part of that was to basically take it back to other transit staff as well as RATP Dev to have further discussion about that. And part of the discussion also was to use the system on the buses to provide information to the passengers to encourage them to use masks because the drivers also distribute masks on the buses, as well as the security guard at the transit station as part of our effort to encourage and also to change the culture, encourage more people to use masks.
All right. I see Rachelle has a hand raised. We have 3 minutes.
Oh, well, I don't want to take the time then. It can wait.
Okay. Comments, questions from Transit Committee members or guests?
Yeah, I think just returning to my earlier point, I think so. I see in the comment here from Beth that Better Buses Together's recommendation or supposed recommendation to increase riders, the capacity to 13 occurred in October. And I just want to acknowledge that that was a point in time at which daily cases were roughly a third to a half of what they are today. So I just think that it's important to be considering policies and, you know, the public health perspective and balancing that against other needs that riders have and other considerations against this kind of new, huge rising wave, the largest so far that we've experienced, and that those recommendations might be outdated relative to the current situation. So it's 2027, right?
Fair enough. Fair enough. Other comments?
Well, I think my comment is important, so
please,
I'm just going to include it in the messages. Will that be part of the meeting? Or quickly, I'll just say, if the buses were made free in an effort, if fare was eliminated in an effort to protect drivers from interaction, then it seems like drivers being charged with mask distribution completely annihilates, like, the intention to protect drivers then gets lost in the real-time execution of drivers handing out masks.
Let me address that if I can, Rachelle. Let me address that because I'm doing all this from memory. What we also discussed with city staff was putting dispensers, mask dispensers at the back door of the bus. I think we recognize the concern that you just raised. Thank you for doing that. And I just forgot it. Don't get old. But we have talked about putting mask dispensers, and I think Eunice is currently researching that.
I think the point is that the 9 to 10 person indoor limit is really more confusing.
Folks, it's coming up on 5:30. Rachelle, I hope I didn't shut you down or misrepresent what you were saying.
No, not at all. I just, yeah.
I love your input. This is great.
Yeah, this whole
Folks,
meeting.
it's
Thank you for letting me be part of it.
yeah. Oh gosh, I'm talking about wider experience. Very briefly, transit committee members in 15 seconds or less per person. There are 4 of us. Is there something, a significant rider experience that you need to report?
Not from me.
I apologize. My bad time management here. I missed that part.
Nothing for me, Jeff.
Well, no.
Harvey?
Yes, like I said, I'm not out there because of my primary care position. But what I would like to do, Thomas, I thank you for stepping up, and you also, Jeff. And I'd like to give a big shout out to the staff, Jessica and Eunice, Marcella, Barry, Roxy. I appreciate everything that y'all are doing. Y'all got your life on the line out there with this pandemic out there, and I appreciate each and everything that y'all do. Each and every day you do it, and I'm glad you're out there. If I could be out there, I'd be out there with you.
Awesome.
And that's it.
Tori, a comment? Rider experience?
No, nothing from me. Yeah, thank you to all the staff as well.
Thomas?
No, nothing for me, Jeff. Thank you.
All right. I'm just going to close just with a lot of gratitude for all the people you've mentioned, certainly city staff, tirelessly working to do this work. RATP Dev, thank you for being out there on the front lines with us. Our new people who are visiting today and just sharing your excitement for transit. The technical people who are making these virtual meetings possible. Thank you, Beth, and your crew, and all of you folks. And anybody I have forgotten. Transit committee members, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I second the motion.
So Tori nodded and Harvey seconded. I'm going to do a roll call vote to adjourn. Tori, yay or nay?
Yay.
Thomas?
Thomas is gone.
No, he's here.
Yay. I don't think you have to vote on adjourning, but we can.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, I didn't know that. All right.
Hit the devil.
Folks, we are adjourned.
Thanks,
Thank everyone.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Everybody have a blessed evening.
5:32.